So I'm thinking about updating to the Corsair 3500X from the HYTE Y70 case. Both beautiful cases. I've had the Y70 for quite some time, but I think it's time to pass off the torch to the 3500X. Let me show you a few reasons why. We're gonna do a quick unboxing, and then I'm gonna show you all the ins and outs of the case. So check it out. All right, so this is the Corsair 3500X in white. You can see along the front here, 3500 series. Here's where you would see the shipping information. The back, same thing as the front. Then over here shows the case in white glass, and then serial number, model number, and all that good stuff. So let's open it up. Little safety and compliance warranty information dangling around in there. All right, nice looking case so far. It's actually a lot bigger than I thought it would be. The case is 506 millimeters high, 460 millimeters in length, and 240 millimeters in width. And the entire thing weighs 21.41 pounds, not too heavy. All right. You can see along the rear here, we can fit a 120 millimeter fan. We can fit up to 7 cards. And then way down here, of course, the power supply. The power supply can be up to 180 millimeters in length or 7.08 inches. And then the rear here, aside from the solid over here, here is opened up and filtered as well to let some air in case you want a liquid cooling unit on the side. It's probably what I'll be doing. Then a solid front glass panel along with the side over here, as we've already seen. That one was nice. And ooh, that was nice also. The top of the case can fit up to a 120 millimeter radiator, or a 280 or a 240, or if you prefer fans, 3 120s or 2 140s. Okay. Also filtered over here, like it is along the side over here. It has a reset button, a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, USB Type-C, USB 3.0 headers, and a power button. And the way you open up the side panels, there are no screws here. Thankfully, there's a little handle right over here. Ooh, comes off nicely. And then you just kind of pull it off. Okay, so I'm liking that toolless design, at least so far. And I think, yeah, it also goes for the rear panel as well. Very nice. And this is what the side panel looks like. You can, of course, take off that tape. That's for shipping. The filter is magnetic. And you don't need it there. You can remove it, or you can have it there. If you don't have a lot of dust in your house, it's best to remove it. If you do have some dust, keep it on there, nice and cool. And then, of course, you can always wash it later on if it gets dusty. And it latches on right up here with these little nipples on the side panel. And then down here on this little wedge here, right down here. So again, just push it in. And that's it. Totally toolless. Very nice. Now you may have noticed this is the bare case. It doesn't come with any fans, doesn't come with any kind of cable routing, because many times you're gonna buy your own fans. So rather than just buying the case, throwing the fans away, you get to save a few bucks. It also does have a spot here for their controller, which is so cool the way it just kind of snaps on there. It is magnetic, but you don't have to use it if you don't want to. Now here you can install either two 2.5-inch drives or two 3.5-inch drives, or maybe one 2.5 and a 3.5, totally up to you. And while not 100% toolless for this tray, you will need a screwdriver to open this up. Remove that SSD or hard drive tray, and then you can screw in the rear of the panel right up here and your hard drive or SSDs along back here. And when you want to put the tray back, you would slide these little pegs into these little holes, and then these little pegs here into these little holes, so you never lose placement, because it's happened to me 1,000 times. You remove something, you just can't figure out how to put it back, and then when it's in there, you can tighten them by hand if you'd like. You don't need to use a screwdriver anymore because you're done with shipping. Now this doesn't have as many drive placements as many other cases, because many times you're gonna have your M.2 SSDs here. A lot of boards have 1, 2, 3, 4 places you could put it. That along with here, the drives don't really matter so much anymore. Now the cables comes with an HD audio cable, then a USB Type-C connection, a USB 3.0 connection, and a front panel connection. Thank you, Corsair. You don't need to mess around with the little pins. Everything is right in here. Of course, as long as your motherboard is compatible, more than likely it will be. And just in case, cable's around 27 inches long. Now again, you're able to fit up to a 180 millimeter power supply here. It has the little rubber grommets here for anti-vibration and everything, and the filter along the bottom. So you could see here, it's actually pretty long. And then you can just put it in right over here. So nice. Along the side here, you could fit up to a 360 millimeter radiator, or 280 or 240 millimeter radiator, whatever you'd like to put there. Or instead of a radiator, you could put 3 120 millimeter fans or 2 140 millimeter fans. Now, an incredibly important part, often forgotten, is the space between the motherboard and the top of the case, so that you can fit a radiator. So the top of the motherboard would be right around here. So between here and the top of the case, you have a little over 2 inches. So that's a lot of room for the radiator and the fans. Now the other thing is the spacing between the back of the case and that first screw hole for the radiator. You have about 1.5 inches of space there, so plenty of space here, and we'll see soon enough when I do a build in here how much space we have. In the case, you're able to fit either an ITX, a micro ATX, ATX, and EATX motherboard up to 305 millimeters by 277 millimeters, so you have plenty of space. Now the other cool thing, depending on the size of your motherboard, is you have space here for cable routing, space here, and well, here and down here as well. But then you also have along the side over here, so that's awesome. Now depending if you have a radiator here, you might not have as much space or any space along the side here, but this is a nice one. Along your power supply's shroud, you can see we have these little holes here as well, but then we also have these holes over here so that you can fit cables through to route to maybe your HD audio over here, maybe a USB header over here, and your front panel header right over here. Or chances are, if you have space, you can come in through the bottom of the motherboard as well. Unlike other shrouds, there isn't an opening here, so it allows you for better cable management, or at least cleaner. Now moving this box aside, which we will go through over in 1 second, that doesn't totally block it, because right over here I can fit my fingers through, so you can fit some cables through, and then right over here as well it'll feed through this piece of metal here, which this case is made out of steel and glass. Actually haven't seen any plastic or anything, which is nice. Coming along the bottom, we can see there are rubber feet, so maybe they do have rubber here, but there are rubber feet and an took off the top panel, but a bottom panel, complete bottom panel filter, which like the other filters, you can take out and wash as needed. But down here is for the power supply. The entire bottom of the power supply is opened up here. And this is where the fan should be in most cases, sucking air through the bottom of the case, in and then out through the rear, helping to cool the power supply, and then along the front of the case right up here. Now again, I mentioned rubber because they have these little pads over here. Let me move the top and I'll show you that in 1 second. These rubber pads here to keep it from slipping on a table, that way it'll grip onto the table. And these feet are exactly 1 inch tall. So they're nice and tall. They have a nice little railing system here for the filter. That little railing system easily pulls out and snaps right back in through the bottom. Again, you got plenty of space. You can fit your hands down there as well. So I'm just putting it on. I took it off a second ago by mistake. I wanted to show it to you, but perfect opportunity. So the top panel has a little handle right over here. Just pull it off. It comes off really easy. The same little nipples over here, and where you can latch onto them over here. That gives you more access to the top of the radiator, so you can screw everything in, or fans, of course. And then it gives you complete access to the power button, USB ports, 3.5mm headphone jack, and reset button. And like the side and the bottom, this is removable. So if and when it gets dirty, just take it off and clean, or you don't need it at all if you don't have any dust in your house. That makes cleaning so much easier. Coming around back on the inside, removing this tray gives you access to the back of the motherboard. That way, if you need to install something to hold in the cold plate or for CPU heatsink fans, you have complete access to the rear of the case. Now, aside from liquid cooling, your CPU cooler's height can be up to 170mm or 6.69 inches. So that's pretty tall coming from the rear of the case out to here before it slaps onto the side panel. For your GPU, you have up to 425mm, which the longest 5090 that I know of, the Gigabyte GeForce RTX 5090 RS Master, is 360mm in length. Correct me if I'm wrong. And if you did want to install a vertical GPU, you have the option in this case. Now, it may not look like it here because this is solid, but actually, you can remove this panel here. And then spin it, put it back, and then you would add the GPU riser right over here, which will give you plenty of space from where the card is right over here to the side panel. Then you would install the card typically along these 3 I/O panels here. That'll depend how thick the card is, of course. All right, so the accessories box. Nothing else here. Ooh, it's got a ton of stuff. 12 of these little zip ties. Definitely nice to have. And when I was mentioning that not all boards are compatible, this is exactly what I meant. In case your board isn't compatible with the standard front panel header layout, this gives you the male pins so that you can slide into that for the cables that come with the case. And then all of these to attach to the motherboard, the reset switch, power switch, and the power LED switch. That's nice. So in this little baggie, even though they are separated, they include these 2 little screws, and these screws are for the GPU Sag Bracket. In this one, they include 12 SSD screws, teeny tiny screws. Here they include 20 fan screws. In this resealable package, they should all be resealable, but anyway, they include 3 motherboard standoffs. In case the ones pre-installed aren't good enough or you need additional ones. This GPU Sag Bracket, pretty nice. The Sag Bracket, for example, can go somewhere like right over here using the GPU Sag Bracket screws in these 2 little cleverly placed holes. And then after it's placed, you can adjust the screw here by just turning this over here and then either sliding it up or sliding it down and then tightening that screw. And this little piece of rubber is for the sag bracket to keep it from making direct contact with the card. 12 long fan screws to go through radiators. For these, aside from the radiator, you could also use it if you're going to be putting some fans here or some fans here to screw the fans just like that and keep them in place. And then 20 motherboard or hard drive screws. So let me know what you think. It can have a vertical GPU just like the HYTE can. It can take the same amount of drives as the HYTE can as well. It's got the same wraparound glass as the HYTE, but it doesn't have that piece right over here. Who cares about that really, in my opinion at least. The HYTE does give you the option to put an LCD there, but in my opinion, you're going to be looking at your monitor, not so much your case. A great thing on the Corsair versus the HYTE is, especially if you're in the ecosystem, you have the link right up here so you can add the case to your own Corsair ecosystem. It's got a built-in GPU Sag Bracket if you're going to be putting it horizontally. If not, then don't even bother with it. One thing I don't like, a lot of you will like it, is the fact that the I/O is at the top of this case, whereas on the HYTE, the I/O is right down here. So some of you might prefer it, some of you might not. I kind of like it at the bottom. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. I am going to be doing a full build inside of this case, so check that out. It's coming soon. If it is out, you'll find it right up here, and if not, you'll find one just like it right up here. This is Iggy with ThisBytesForYou out. See you guys.